21st day of April 2024. I'm going to be your host tonight. I'm Dana Durnford. I'm also known as the nuclearproctologist.org, and you can call in at 709-589-4406. My keys in my pocket. Put them out there because otherwise they end up in the laundry. And you're wondering where they're to. Nothing worse than that, is it? We got lots to cover tonight. No damage to the Iran's nuclear site. Because Israel knew bloody well if they had to hit that, Iran would turn around and smack them right back at their Damora nuclear power site and the other nuclear sites, right? And most of their missiles got shot out of the sky. When we were live, the missiles were on their way, apparently. And so we averted, for the time being, who knows, Israel's pretty stupid, they might do it again. For the time being, we averted multiple nuclear meltdowns, but we already got multiple nuclear meltdowns on our hands. We're going to cover that tonight. There's a new video they're pumping around inside the pro-nuclear movement. And they're promoting Geraldine Thomas, Michael Schellenberg, and the like. These are notorious. Both of those in particular should be in jail forever, right? They're the worst humans imaginable. No damage to the Iran's nuclear site, says the International Atomic Energy Agency, who would have given Israel all the information on the nuclear site for starters. Truly the worst people are the nuclear industry, and the International Atomic Energy Agency is leading the scumbag charge, right? They confirmed there's no damage to the Iran's nuclear site. I just think Israel has come to their senses and realized they can't bully Iran anymore. And so they went back to bullying Palestine, who got no tanks, no jets, no navy. People that can't fight back, right? That's only the people that Israel is good for attacking. They're not going to attack somebody with an actual army because they get the shit kicked out of them, right? They launched a retaliatory attack. No, Israel started this by having the Americans put and the British put sanctions and embargoes against Iran for the last 50 years. All Israel do is, it's a war machine, right? It makes money by selling weapons. It's a war machine. The whole country, if that's what you want to call it. It's hard to call that place a country, by the way. It's a hateful country, at the least. Do you ever see the way the Orthodox Jews treat the Christians? Holy smokes. And then yet the Christian churches around the world supports Israel, and the Israelis hates the Christians. Brainwashing's a wonderful thing, isn't it? And the International Atomic Energy Agency, United Nations, have got to go. I can tell you right now, this is what it would look like in about 1 year if they hit the nuclear plants in Iran and Israel. There'd be 1-ton bags of radiation everywhere forever, just like Japan. Attack on Iran's nuclear site would risk too much. Yeah, they come to their senses. And I can tell you right now, the video we done on Thursday night probably changed the whole game. Because up to that point, Israel never considered that Iran would hit their nuclear plants, right? And neither did the media. You never ever heard the media utter those words, Iran could hit Israelis' nuclear plants. But after my video went out on Thursday night, that showed up in the media multiple times the next day. So we got some stories from the time machine we're going to cover first. And we also got a poll tonight that we'll cover right this second. Should we ban food from Japan, considering 4 nuclear reactors and 8 fuel pool meltdowns infected the entire planet? And everybody should ban everything from Japan. Japan needs, like Israel, needs to learn a big lesson. And that if you're going to be evil, then the world should turn on you for doing horrendous things to the rest of us in the 8 million species. A very self-centered, egotistic, moron societies, both of them. Fukushima rice to be brought by the government and mixed into Japan's rice reserves. Try wrapping your mind around that statement. Because Japan picked up 30 million one-ton bags. 30 million one-ton bags. It's enough to make a roll like that wrapped around the entire planet of one-ton bags. So you're going to see a lot of pictures like that tonight to try to drive the point home to the people that are first coming here, but also to the nuclear industry, which has infiltrated our site many times. Hi everybody, hope you're having a great night. Hope everybody's doing okay. Now the reason we're showing all these pictures is in honor of Ishida Mashita, the Tokyo Bureau in Chicago division. Has tortured me so much for over a decade with stalking that all of these pictures you're going to see I created. Now, there's 150,000 sites like this that Japan has created of one-ton bags. 150,000, which means there's 150,000 pictures out there. We don't have them. We have maybe 1,000 pictures of one-ton bags. But most of these pictures, if not all of them, that you're going to see are made by artificial intelligence, because we're missing 149,000 pictures. And all of these pictures will be accurate. Let me go backwards. Fukushima rice to be bought by the government mixed into Japan. So they're going to buy rice from the nuclear wasteland, and then they're going to take the rice from the nuclear wasteland and mix it into rice that's not as radioactive. And so right away, the level of evil defies any kind of logic whatsoever. And there's not a single academic, there's not a single academic on the entire planet spoken out in the last decade. Originally there was quite a few academics spoke out about this, but they eventually got silenced or just went away or lost their jobs. Japan's national government will buy 40,000 tons 40,000 tons, and Japan is metric, right? 40,000 tons is a lot of rice. Multiplied by 2,200 pounds per ton is 88 million pounds. 88 million. And a pound of rice is a lot of rice. That's a lot of eating, right? But the amount of radiation we're talking about is beyond evil. It's insidious that anybody would do this. But a country with multiple nuclear meltdowns doing it, it's inconceivable. Because you got to realize they picked up 150,000 sites that were similar to this, of one-ton bags, which is only 3% of the land. So 88 million pounds of rice will be mixed with another 88 million pounds of rice, which is a fraction of the rice, and resold as rice reserves. This reserve rice is put back into the market when there's a shortage or by request from the food companies. Hey, can you give us some of that Fukushima radioactive fallout rice? There's not enough cancers and heart problems and liver problems. And so just on that basis alone, just on that merit, everybody on this planet should have a huge hate for the nuclear industry. You should despise the nuclear industry with every fiber in your body for doing that, because they're going to poison you everywhere you go. And there's a lot of things made with rice. And it's shipped worldwide. Isn't that? Now, it's very, they have a really strong limits on importing rice, but they have no limits on exporting rice. Making matters worse, Japan has strict limits on rice imports. And rice imports to Japan are banned. Why would you ban rice when your country is radioactive? Because the nuclear industry is so evil, it has so much influence. It's shocking. It's terrifying that an industry can influence a country to not import clean food. And, you remember Polly used to be in your comment sections. I blocked him on the last show. When I read the comments after, because I got a big operation, and we're desperately trying to get back out and do research. We're running into all kinds of issues. Mainly is I got to do everything myself, and I just can't do it anymore. And my equipment is old. We've been at this forever. But we'll still see it through, and once or twice a week I'll remind people we need donations. This operation can't exist. Like most, there's 90 million people using the same site as I am to raise money. I'm happy to do it for the 8 million species and the people on this planet and the future generations. Right? I'm different from the majority, I would imagine. And so Polly, who have infiltrated your comment section, was pro-nuclear community, was saying, hey folks, Dana needs beer money, donate. Anybody's know I haven't drank in 30 years. Like, it's a really, really despicable, disgusting, parasitic thing to say about me. And we let Polly in there. Everybody treated Polly very kind. Everybody was very polite in the comment section with Polly, who used to pretend that they're from Hawaii, but I would imagine that they're from Israel or something. A disgusting parasite that they were. Yoshinoya fast food chain in Japan to grow rice and vegetables in Fukushima to secure low price. So they're going to grow food in a nuclear wasteland because it's cheaper. And they're a big food chain. They're a huge food chain. They're an unbelievable food chain, right? Look at the censorship tonight already. 15 people on my show, really? That I've been doing for over a decade straight on YouTube? 15 people. Really? That's censorship, right? That's how insane the censorship actually is. That's how insane they actually are, right? They're literally like children when you look at them, right? They have very low IQs, and they have the mentality of a child, like a 11-year-old child who's very vindictive. That's the censorship on YouTube, the nuclear industry in general. They're going to grow food in a nuclear wasteland because it's cheaper. Japan fast food chain, and that's a huge chain, will grow rice and vegetables in Fukushima Prefecture in a nuclear wasteland surrounded by nuclear wasteland. Remember, the food was banned in 14 prefectures, not just Fukushima. And Fukushima only picked up 3% of the land, but picked up 30 million one-ton bags. It's unbelievable, the censorship they do to me. But I mean, if they censor so there's nobody watching, I'm still going to do the shows. I got no choice. Somebody on this planet has to take the beating. And I've been beaten relentlessly. They beat the shit out of me constantly. I've been under siege. And if you go and look up Dana Durnford, you're going to find so many lies. It defies. You won't find out. It's unbelievable. You won't find anything good about me. You'll just find nothing but unbelievable. And it'll go all the way back to Fukushima. And because there's a whole lot of nuclear out there will attack me just for free because they're pro-nuclear, right? And when you've got 1,000 public relation firms that are willing to do it also. And so I live in the reality every day that the world hates me. The majority of the world, if not 99.9% of the world, will eventually hate me because of the propaganda out there. But the ones that have an open mind will come and see that I'm completely honest. I'm completely sincere, and I'm 100% genuine. and that I do the work. And I don't deserve to be destroyed by this industry. But if I would rather sacrifice my life for the 8 million species and the future of humanity any day than sit there and do nothing. The company, of course, and attacking me only makes my resolve much more anyway. The company, of course, says they will radiation test food. Instead of saying test food for radiation, they will radiation test food. Why would you say it that way? Will radiation test food? Test food for radiation was what you would say, right? They grow for radiation. They will radiation test food. They grow for radiation. Like, that doesn't make any sense. It sounds like a 2-year-old trying to say a sentence, right? They will radiation test food. They grow for radiation. What the fuck does that mean? What does it mean, though? Let me try it again. They will radiation test food. They grow for radiation. I don't understand what it means. What does it mean? I'm not doing another sentence until we work out what that fucking means. The company, of course, said, this is the company's words, they will radiation test food. They grow for radiation. What does that mean? I don't know what it means. They will radiation test food. They grow for radiation. I don't know. My brain is like, But provides no details but acceptable levels of transparency. So the sentence don't even make any sense anyway. The company also said that the low cost of growing food in Fukushima is a motivating factor. You should burn down every one of those fucking places right away. I'm not saying go out and do it. I'm just saying that Japan should have done it. They will radiation test food. They grow for radiation. What does that mean? I can't get past this. My God, boy. They will radiation test food. They grow for radiation. Anybody knows what it means? Call in at 709-589-4406. We're stuck in a fucking matrix here right now. We can't get past this. They will radiation test food. They grow for radiation. Does anything make any sense anymore? Remember, there's 150,000 sites of 1-ton bags of radiation in 2016. They picked up 30 million 1-ton bags in 3% of the land of the province, the prefecture. And so when you see these depictions, I'm just trying to remind you there's 149,000 pictures that we've never seen. And in order to give you some kind of concept, I have to create, right now I got a total of 1,400 of these pictures created with artificial intelligence. And I'm doing more pictures every day because I got to get 150,000 pictures together so we can tell the story of Fukushima. Yoshinoya also has stores in the U.S. across Asia. So they got stores in the United States and across Asia. But don't worry, you pretty little heads, because they will radiation test food to grow for radiation. So that should make you feel much fucking better. Over 3,000 people in Japan cite severe nosebleeds. Yummy. And radiation-type symptoms in 11 days. That's 2013 story, by the way. Over 3,000 people in Japan, nosebleeds that won't stop. Because it's a nuclear wasteland, right? But it's not just Fukushima, it's across Japan. See, like, there's 150,000 sites like this in Japan. 150,000. There's 30 million 1-ton bags. 30 million. And you know what's interesting about it? I don't have to tell the artificial intelligence to make the bags black. It already knows that, apparently. Kasumi has been following an unusual trend on Twitter, aka X, the stupidest name imaginable, in Japan. People began posting complaints of severe nosebleeds. Then the complaints grew and grew, with more people every day citing the problem. And many of these also include complaints of nausea, fatigue, and other symptoms similar to the run of complaints found among the population of Japan right after the 2011 quadruple nuclear meltdown. There was 4 nuclear meltdowns. Reactor 4 also melted down. You be the judge, actually. Now, if you don't agree with me that this is a meltdown, I hear you, brother and sisters. But you can call in and explain to me why that's not a meltdown. At 709-589-4406. 709 Canada. You got to put a 1 in front of it. 589-4406. And one is like the thing in Canada. I don't know about America or anywhere else. You might skip to 1, right? But is that a meltdown or not? Does that look like a meltdown to anybody? Because if that looks like a meltdown, then there's 4 nuclear meltdowns, not 3. And at the top of the building were 2 fuel pools, and they're gone too. With the reactor was at the top of the building, which means there's 8 fuel pools and 4 reactor cores. Which means that, by the way, just the reactor core of single one in Japan is worse than all nuclear meltdowns in history combined that we know about. But Chernobyl is the worst nuclear disaster in history, right? Chernobyl anniversary is coming up the weekend. Is it the weekend? Let me see the dates here. Friday's Chernobyl's anniversary, isn't it? April 26th? Yeah. So I'm not sure if I'm doing an extra show on Friday, which maybe, or a Thursday show is going to be dedicated to Chernobyl. Now, we done a Chernobyl show about 2 weeks ago. If you go back to my videos, it's a couple of hundred academic studies. We're going to cover a lot more than that on the anniversary, that's for sure. I might do an all-day show on Friday just for madness. Depending on the weather. If the weather is bad, I might just be... Let me check the weather for Friday. The weather can change, so I shouldn't even bother. Oh, to be born on... Here we go. Let's keep going here. Get distracted next thing you know. Some speculation that the recent typhoon that crossed Japan on September the 16th, 2013, could have disturbed contamination in the soil environment, causing some re-exposures. Now, of course, this is 100% true. The whole country is covered in radioactive fallout. Just because, 30 million one-ton bags was just 3% of the prefecture of Fukushima. The food was banned in 14 prefectures, not just Fukushima. Right, so I highlight the 14 prefectures. And look at them growing food right alongside of 1-ton black bags of radiation. Try wrapping your mind around that statement. And try comprehending why nobody's talking about that. Because I can guarantee you if that was in Canada or anywhere else, there'd be 10,000 people screaming every day on the internet. Well, they just wouldn't do it in Canada. They wouldn't get away with it. The food is banned by 14 prefectures, half the country because they're the big prefectures. Each prefecture is growing 1 billion pounds of food, for goodness sakes. Because, Japan was the breadbasket of the Asia countries. And it still is. Except now it's radioactive food that poisons everything and everybody worldwide. The Nuclear Regulatory Agency, TEPCO, is incompetent. The Fukushima and the Kashiwazaki and Kawaki restart joined at the hip. So again, here's a company with 30 million one-ton bags of radiation, just 3% of the country that they cleaned up was just the little communities want to move people back to in the farmland. They wanted to continue growing food in the communities. That's 30 million one-ton bags of radiation they picked up. Commissioner said, the NRA commissioner, said she was surprised that TEPCO made the application for safety screening. She said she did not think that TEPCO has sufficient knowledge of radioactive material, in apparent reference to the company's handling of the situation at the Fukushima plant. The NRA commissioner, Fukita, also said TEPCO must first focus on resolving the tainted water. Like, you got 30 million one-ton bags, and you're talking about 1,000 tanks. Like, the disconnect is unbelievable. You got 150,000 sites like this. If this was real, there's 150,000 sites. And the reason I created these pictures is because we're missing 149,000 pictures. Of the 150,000 sites, I have about 1,000 pictures. Let me bring some of that up for you so you can wrap your mind around it. Because it's insane, right? The whole story is insane. The whole story is insane. So this is a real picture, 30 million one-ton bags. But you go read this story here, they're talking about 30 million one-ton bags in 2016. In 2019, they're talking about 105,000 storage sites like this, 105,000. Let's go back to the other story. NRA Commissioner Fukita also said TEPCO must first focus on resolving the water, the tainted water. The water's not tainted. Like, you can't contain the water. You're pouring. So you got nuclear meltdowns. Let me explain this. There's got to be a better way. Because they're lying so much. And like, no, Dana, the media wouldn't lie to you. I know what you're saying, but hear me out. Do you think these people, this is only a fraction of the media that done this unique little trick here I've never seen before. They're pretending that they're 120 feet above the stump of reactor 4 up in the sky, in the clear sky, and everything looks wonderful. Prince or King Charles would be proud to eat off the toilet there, right? So all of Japan, Canada, United States should look like this because of the radioactive fallout covered the entire planet. Oh. And this is the future of humanity right there. You're looking at humanity right in the eye. So don't blink. I just lost my spot. Bear with me. Up. Bingo. No. Oh my God. How much work have I got? It can't be way up here. Okay, it is. Water problems reducing risk at the Fukushima plant. Water problems reducing risk at Fukushima. So let's explain that maybe. We talked about the bags. Let's talk about the water for a second, shall we? Oh, that's wrong. There's way too many folders come up. I put water in. Don't want to do that no more for a while. There we go. We're getting there. Oh, Japan. Well, let's talk about the tanks. So there's 1,000 tanks, right? They built all the tanks in 2013. They built all the tanks in 2013. So they said they got 1,000 tanks. We counted the tanks. We got 750. If you count the small ones, the majority of them are small ones. Water above a sievert per hour. So we're not talking about tritium. 1,000 years from now, contaminated water from Fukushima may be still pounding into the Pacific Ocean and into the biosphere. So let's go back to 2013, Mari Yamaguchi. When you see Mari Yamaguchi, that's the official cover story. 2013, 1,000 tanks. Wait a second. They had 1,000 tanks in 2013. In 2014, they had 1,200 tanks, large industrial tanks. In 2017, they had 900 tanks. In 2021, they had 1,000 tanks. 2000, Mari Yamaguchi, of course. 2000, and you can see on that line right there back by the reactor cores, 1,000 tanks. 2023, Mari Yamaguchi, you guessed it, 1,000 tanks. 2024, 1,000 tanks, right? But there's more to that story. There's always more. When it comes to nuclear, there's always more to that story, isn't it? Bear with me. We'll get there. You're going to love this. Hang on. It's worth waiting for. Okay, so in 2013, the BBC, Rupert Winfield Hayes, done a report on the tanks, 1,000 tanks. So listen to what he said about the 1,000 tanks, which is totally different than what you've been hearing for the last number of years.
The Fukushima plant sits smack in the middle of an underground aquifer. Deep beneath the ground, the site is rapidly being overwhelmed by water. Beneath the surface, water flows downhill and into the basement of the damaged reactor buildings. There it is contaminated with high levels of radiation. To stop the groundwater flowing on into the nearby ocean, engineers are building an underground barrier. But that is causing the groundwater level to rapidly rise. It's now so high the water will soon reach the surface. Then it will start flowing overground into the sea. This week, the company that owns Fukushima, TEPCO, made this disturbing admission.
We understand that this water discharge is beyond our control, and we do not think the current situation is good.
Outside experts say it's now clear TEPCO is incapable of handling the cleanup at Fukushima. It's time for the Japanese government to step in. The situation is already beyond what TEPCO can handle, he says. If it were possible to take proper measures, they would have done it already. It's not as if TEPCO is refusing to do what they can. They're doing everything they can, but there are no perfect solutions. Even if the government does step in, it's not clear what it can do. The only other solution is to pump out the contaminated groundwater and put it in storage tanks. But after just 2 years, the site is already jammed with more than 1,000 giant tanks. Most of them are already full up. At least 400 tons of new water pours into the site every day, and it's going to continue for years and years. Fukushima's water crisis has only just begun. Rupert Wingfield Hayes, BBC News in Tokyo.
So that's quite a different story than what those headlines were telling us, right? So the tanks, they said, were all full in 2013 from water from below the plant, from the aquifer that's below that plant. But let's cover the other side of the story, because otherwise, what's the point? So April 21st, which is 2014, which is 10 years ago today, TEPCO unable to bring the contaminated water. So the Advanced Liquid Processing Systems ALPS is yet to function reliably. And we know that because we covered all kinds of headlines about that, right? But there was another system, August the 12th, 6 months later, 2014, TEPCO to abandon the Ariva system, which was the same as the ALPS. And for the last 3 years, the system has been unused and kept out of operation. But they didn't even start building the ALPS system until 2013. So in 2013, the tanks were all full, and they were still building the ALPS system. Which meant, even if they were trying to filter the water, they had never filtered it up to this point. The tanks were full. It still took a long time to build the so-called ALPS system, which we know now didn't work. And so where was the water going? See, the tanks are empty. The reason we know the tanks are empty is because they're pouring water over the melter reactor core. Bear with me. It gets even more complicated if you don't have the information. And then, whose fault is it if you don't have the information? It's my fault, right? Because I didn't give it to you. So who's at fault? Then it's me. Dana freaked out. Dana should have gave you the information. So that, with no legitimate excuses, because I didn't give you the information, then it's my fault. I can live with that. That's totally acceptable. Here we go. It's just pure luck that I found it that quick. But if you go back and read this story, September the 5th, 2013, radiation levels around the tanks used to store the thousands of tons of radioactive water, not from pouring over it, but that they've sucked up from underneath the site. And I played the video from 2013. Is at 2.2 millisieverts, which is 22,000 microsieverts. Or 2.2 sieverts. Now, 3 sieverts is a lethal dose to a human. So if you're going to fill up the tanks with lethal doses, which is each tank now is going to be 1.4 million sieverts, but they're only talking about beta. You can't fill up the tanks with just beta. There's going to be alphas and neutrons and gammas. And of course, by proxy now you got X-rays. So you took a gallon of it and put it at the airport, another gallon, put it of this water, as in the tanks, and put it at train stations, another gallon, put it at a subway station, and you took a gallon, you put it everywhere people have to pass by. You can kill everybody on the planet in just a couple of years. But everybody that walks past a gallon of that stuff at a subway or something that was buried in the wall will die that day or that week from that gamma shines, neutron bombardments, the beta rays, the X-rays, and everything else. July the 29th, 2014, TEPCO says groundwater bypass operation not having effects at Fukushima. They admit that the groundwater bypass operations are failing to reduce the tons of water from entering the reactor buildings at Fukushima each day. TEPCO failed to deliver on the promise to install a fence because it was going to cost $1 billion. This is why they didn't do it, he said. You can't build a fence to stop radiation. It's so stupid, see? How are you going to build a fence to stop radiation? How does that friggin' work? I need to know. So imagine you're going to build a fence and you're going to stop. This is France's model of cesium-137 at 1 million to 10 million atoms per cubic meter of air. How are you going to stop that with a fence? How does that actually work? Explain to me how that works. Because I really fucking need to know. How does that work? That's 20 days. The model is based on 30 days total. But at 20 days, the whole planet is suffocated in radioactive fallout, which means everything, every species, every insect, every bird, the bacteria, the fungus in the forest, everything is being slaughtered with full-body X-rays, not counting everything else we're talking about. I can't even list it in a single show. There's so many other issues associated with fucking that. Right, first off, you got to put this creature into the equation, reactor 3, this slash Medusa. They call it reactor 3, but it's actually a plutonium mixed oxide fuel meltdown. We've seen that before at Windscale. They changed the name because of the crimes they committed against humanity to Sellafield in the United Kingdom, right? Like, that cooked off at 200,000 degrees hotter than the other reactors because it's the plutonium mixed oxide fuel. Reclaim uranium, reclaim plutonium. It's unconscionable that they've done something like that, which is the same fuel, but much more high assay that they're planning on using for the idiotic small modular reactors, which makes no sense because anything small modular reactors can do, geothermal can do fucking better. We're going down that road tonight, aren't we? I start swearing. Once I swear a certain amount of time, my brain goes into this stupid mode and I can't shut it down. I'm going to try. I'll do my best again tonight. So first off, the radioactive fallout from a normal nightmare meltdown is 2 billion times more toxic than industrial poison. Let that sink in for a second. So, like, say I was going to give your child a spoonful of this medicine. I call it medicine. And you say, well, how bad is it? Oh, it's about 2 billion times more toxic than industrial poison. You're going to attack me right on the spot. You're going to try to kill me to stop me from giving it to your child right on the spot. You're going to lose your mind, right? Because I'm trying to kill your child. That's going to kill your child. Unless you've been indoctrinated in school all your life, and then you might thank me. TEPCO's ice wall not meeting expectations. Why would you build an ice wall? What expectations? There's no top, there's no bottom. How are you going to stop the water from getting out? It was the stupidest thing imaginable. I blew up laughing when he first suggested it, and then it turned out that they actually were going to do it. I was like, oh my God, we lost the planet to the scumbag industry. Like, why would you build an ice wall, though? Is it $12 million a year to maintain it on top of that? Why not just build a real wall? Does that sound stupid or something? Wow, Dana, what are you talking about? Dana, build a real wall. Mom, Dana thinks they should have built a real wall. I can see nuclear scientists in their mom's basement. Mom, come down. Dana wants to build a real wall. You'd think I'm crazy that that's not happening, but that's exactly what's happening. There's very few nuclear scientists can live on their own. That's common knowledge. I don't know a single nuclear scientist that can tie their own shoes. That's why they wear those slip-ons, right? Nothing got out, though. Thank goodness. Except for everything. TEPCO plans to dump the water stored at Fukushima Daiichi into the Pacific. Well, you can't contain it. That's exactly what they've done with all of it. Nothing went in the tanks. Because the tanks are going to be at 1.4 million sieverts per tank of just beta. So multiply that by 3. Which means you can't get back on the site if you've done that to a single tank. Because even if the tank was 6 feet thick lead, it still can't shield you. At those kind of numbers. So the tanks are actually empty. Like, you're not going to pour water over Medusa. Put it through a filter. Because you can't get back into the site again. After 20 minutes, you can't change the filter because you can never go near it without getting a lethal dose. Right away, too. I'll get it, and then he drops dead. The next! Like, let's be rational that the pipes you're using to pump the alleged water, you can't step over those pipes or hoses. Because the water we're talking about is lethal doses by the liter. You don't need to, like gamma, cesium-137, for instance, pulse and 134 pulses energy 600 feet every second. Right through your house, right through the neighbor's house, and then into the other neighbor's house and radiates them. It's a stupid, stupid, awful industry. And it has doomed us to a future of misery. And it's time to claw back something for the future generations and for any species that might be able to survive this onslaught. This is another model of Neptunium-239 dispersal. If I remember correctly, Neptunium-239 decays to plutonium. It's like 25 days, or I can't remember. I haven't got my charts there. So this was a model based on TEPCO's number, based on venting. It's not based on the nuclear meltdowns. No, based on venting. Blah, 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 nuclear batshit. Let's keep going. We got to get back into the story. We got a lot of stories to cover here tonight. Stop fooling around, Dana. Get back to the stories. Because this stuff scares me, right? This is the stuff of friggin' nightmares. Almost everything is out of control. No, everything is out of control. When France tells you to get out of the country, she's out of control, baby. The Swiss closed the freshwater fishery for 30 years after Chernobyl. When Fukushima happened, they were like, run. Tokyo's lost almost all control of the events, the Energy Commission officials. Nuclear report warns of Fukushima, an apocalyptic scenario at Fukushima. This could one day be considered the start of the ultimate catastrophe of the world and the planet. Do you know why he said that? Because the plutonium models, I think this is a plutonium model. Yeah, plutonium-239 dispersal model. That's 20 days. That's 21 days. Wait a second. Yeah, that's the 28. Let me go backwards. Oh, this is 20 days, that model. This is 21 days. But that's 16 days. That's 16 days. And that's 17 days of plutonium dispersal around the entire planet. Not North America, the entire planet. Now, I've done research expeditions from Vancouver, British Columbia to Alaska. The species are exterminated. South Korea, which is incompetent, calls Japan's handling of Fukushima incompetent. 1,000 years from now, Fukushima contaminated water from Fukushima may be still entering the Pacific Ocean. Not might be. This was the perfect headline. This could one day be considered the start of the ultimate catastrophe of the world and the planet, because, and like the reality of it is, he picked up 30 million one-ton bags of radiation. So 350,000 atoms per kilogram of rice straw. And more over limit rice. That's a little bit over limit. So update 220 becquerels of cesium in average food consumption. So then multiply that by 600 to get the other isotopes. Because you ain't just going to be cesium. Much of what was tested is over 100,000 becquerels a kilogram. This is the rice straw, the rice. Don't worry, Dana, we put potassium in the fields. That'll stop the rice from taking up the cesium. Like they do that all the time. You hear that everywhere. From Chernobyl to Mayak to Sellafield to every nuclear accident, you'll hear the same thing. We got to take Calm Down Charlie, Yoshida Mishada, the Togehoval. For harassing me for so long now that I'm creating thousands of pictures as a memorabilia for Calm Down Charlie. So I'll never forget the scumbag that is Calm Down Charlie. It shows how one seemingly minor mistake can have what the fuck would you write the words minor mistake? How can you put that into anywhere in any paragraph? a minor mistake, can have incredible consequences for food supply and for the farmers. Farmers should be shot for continuing to grow food there on site. It should be like legal. Everybody should get their kids and go out and shoot a fucking farmer on Saturday for something to do. Oh, kids, we might have saved a couple of million people right there. That was a good shot, Timmy. You were going for ice cream after. In Dana's world, anyway, that makes sense, I think, in any average person, let alone Dana's world. My world is based on reality, by the way, sadly. Oh, Mary Sue, you're getting a big bowl of ice cream tonight. That was a great shot. You should have seen that farmer flopping around out there in the old radiated field. That was real good. Daddy's so proud of you. That's what should be going on. Shoot a farmer, save 1 billion people. Best way to save your puppy's life is to get rid of these farmers on site. Should go down to America on the millions of one-ton bags. How wrong Dana actually is. Dana's wrong. I can see nuclear scientists rushing down there. Well, I can't go over there. There's radiation here, but I want to. I really want to. Let's hire some children to go over and write on the bags that Dana's wrong. Because that's what the cowards would do, right? Rice in Daiichi City was found to be contaminated with cesium. Some as high as 550 becquerels a kilogram. The rice had not been sold and is awaiting a disposal plan, which is to mix it with other rice and resell it. I showed you that earlier, right? There's 149,000 pictures missing like this, so we made up these pictures. If you think the nuclear industry is stupid, give me a thumbs up. If you think nuclear industry and other scumbags, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. Give me a vote on the poll too. If you think the nuclear industry should toss off a fucking skyscraper alive and put it on YouTube so we can all enjoy it, give us a vote and vote up. Just saw this over at the Fukushima Diary. Tokyo University did a test to see how much radiation was in the average person's food on a daily basis. They took random meals like one would consume daily and ran them through a detector. Based on these food tests, someone would be taking in 220 atoms of cesium every day. Yikes. But it's worse than that. For every cesium-137 that they're talking about, there's 100 strontium-90s created after the first 1,000 days. And that ratio stays true for tens of thousands of days. Because that's why we call them disease factories, right? Multiple highly radioactive fish found at Fukushima Daiichi. This is frightening, isn't it? Look at these numbers. Oh, Mom, Dana's making fun of Japan. This is everything in Japan should look like that. Everything in Canada should look like that. And everything in the United States should look like that due to the perpetual radioactive fallout from Fukushima. And, of course, like all you ever talk about is cesium, right? This model, of course, and cesium, don't get me wrong, it pulses energy 600 feet. But there's a lot worse isotopes of cesium, like curium. You need lead shielding 9 times or 20 times thicker than you do for plutonium. This is day 20 right there. That's day 20. Doesn't that look pretty? The whole planet covered in 1 million to 10 million atoms of cesium-137. 1 million to 10 million atoms per cubic meter of air. In 30 days. This model is based on 30 days. This is day 20 right there after the tsunami. So this is day 15 after the last reactor detonated. That's day 15. That's the French government. The IRS and the degenerates themselves. Houston, we got a problem. Doesn't quite cut it, right? Like, it all depends. Like, you can't just say that alphas, betas, neutrons, and gammas, one doesn't matter as much as the other, because they all matter, see? And they're all just stupid. But gamma pulses, like cesium-137, 134, for instance, which is a very high ratio production from the accidents, the events, I should call them, they pulse energy 600 feet through rocks and steel and houses and buildings and schools and apartments and shops and restaurants and everything else. They pulse right through it, out the other side. And if you're in there, you're getting a full body X-ray. But you got to include everything, because that's, if you're in a car accident, you're out there walking down the road, and a car, heavens forbid, hits you, and you go to the hospital and you got a skull fracture, but you got broken arms, and broken ribs, and your legs half torn off, and everything else. But the doctor's like, well, that doesn't really matter, because it's not as important as the cranial crack you got in his head, right? So you that's what I'm talking about. You can't just pretend that the other radioactive isotopes don't matter, because they do, because it's bioaccumulation, and the radiation that's in your body, it doesn't care if it's gammas or alphas and neutrons and betas. Your body's going to attack you with white blood cells for the rest of your life. And it's going to pulse energy every second, almost at the speed of light. And then that's going to kill chromosomes and DNA and cells and everything else, and pound your organs with lesions. And your body's going to have to try to repair that every second, because it's going to pulse energy again in 1 second. And you got hundreds of thousands of millions of these anthropogenic man-made isotopes in your body. Your body reacts to everything. It doesn't care if it's a gammas or alphas or neutrons and betas. There's an instant cause and reaction. Your body attacks it with white blood cells and the source. So your body is so if you're going to cut on your finger, your body will attack it relentlessly for 7-8 days and repair it, right? Your body's going to try to do the exact same thing with the radiation that's in your body, but it can't repair it like a cut on your finger. So now you have less oxygen, less nutrition, because you're creating more white blood cells than red blood cells. So even if it was like just tritium, your body's going to attack it the exact same way as it would if it was uranium, plutonium, or americium, or neptunium, except they're doing more damage. But still going to attack it relentlessly for the rest of your life. And so they really do matter. And they matter even more if we're talking about insects and birds and the ecosystem, but the biota that breaks down the foliage and the litter in the forest. That matters. The fungus matters. The bases of the food chain, the bases of the oxygen chain, the bases of the carbon sequestering chain, they're very, very tiny. They're single cells. But they really do matter, because without them, the whole food chain collapses, right? So it matters. Because they pulse, no matter how innocuous or benign they might seem compared to plutonium or curium or whatever, they're still gonna, your body still has to resort to drastic measures for the rest of your life. It's not going to heal it. It's not going to fix it. And eventually it's going to build a tumor around it, but that still won't stop from pulsing energy 600 feet. So it really does matter. Other fish found in the harbor had high contamination. Rockfish, 140,000 becquerels a kilogram combined cesium. Rockfish had 49,000 becquerels a kilogram combined cesium. So, why are we talking about cesium, though, constantly? Because if you go look through history, that's how they swayed you into complacency, was only acknowledging cesium. Right? And all the studies, they're only looking at cesium. And if you only look at cesium, 137, which is basically 134, 137, that's all they're looking at, right? Let me show you how that works. I'm not here every night because I like this, because I don't. I have to drag my ass here every night to do this. I have to work like a dog all day in the weekends just to do this. It's not a game. I'm not doing this because I get a kick out of it, because it's fucking fun or something. I can assure you that it's not. It's insane amount of work every day. And then when I sidetrack like we're doing right now, you can call it sidetracking. Just bear with me. The whole story is insane, right? Yeah, the whole story is insane. Here we go. I'm not digressing. Once we start on a topic, I like to extrapolate as much as I can. So when we're talking about cesium, you got to realize curium, by the way, is the biggest byproduct of the radiative fuel rods. Curium. That's why we call it a nuclear meltdown, a curium. So 129, let's look at 129 iodines in the oceans originally. It was 1,600, I'm sorry, it was 100 kilograms pre-nuclear. And just France, La Hague in France and Sellafield had dumped 1,640 kilograms in the English Channel and 720 kilograms in the Irish Sea, respectively, just in a short while from the reprocessing facilities. So we went from 100 kilograms to 2,000 kilograms to 4,400 pounds. We went from 2,200 pounds to 4,400 pounds. Just from those two facilities, not counting meltdowns and dumping and everything else. So after Fukushima was 220 million atoms per liter of iodine-129 in the rain. That was sustained. That was a study out of Ottawa, Canada, with a 15 million year half-life. But that is different isotope than the stuff that was naturally in the ocean pre-nuclear age. This is anthropogenic man-made iodine-129, whereas the other stuff is the element from the solar system. They're actually completely different. But you can't just talk about cesium-137, because you got all the daughters of iodines, you got all the daughters of xenon. This is why, nuclear scientists don't work at Fukushima. The wanted ads seeks employees that can carry out a conversation. So that pretty well excludes nuclear scientists, because they can't carry out a conversation. Krypton, oh, Superman would be so proud. And you know how your children love Superman. You don't think they named the Krypton isotope of Superman for some reason. Radioactive rain caused 130 schools in Korea to close, because it wasn't just cesium, was it? And don't forget the reactors actually run on uranium and plutonium. And all those isotopes and daughters you got to worry about. And you better worry about. The americium is the same thing. You got to worry about all those daughters. You got to worry. They're all going to be in the same samples. You're not going to get 220 million atoms of iodine-129 and not get all these other ones too in the same sample. Because they can find the iodine-129, they can find the iodine-131, they can find the cesium-137, and then they do a mathematical extrapolation to get the other isotopes. And don't forget strontium-90. Because when it gets in your body, it doesn't care if you're a human or an animal or an insect or a bird. It's going to hammer you for the rest of your life with energy at 1,000,000. And when you can't talk about kevs, how much energy. You got to talk because you got to talk about the fact that it's in your body, it's pulsing energy at the speed of light, and your body's going to respond accordingly to it for the rest of your life. And when you talk about biological half-lives in your body, it's not going anywhere. It's sequestered in your muscles, your organs, and your bones. So if it's in your skeleton, then you worry about your children and your loved ones making radioactive stem cells for the rest of their lives as they're developing. Researchers too frightened to get closer than 100 kilometers from the meltdowns after seeing radiation levels. So what's the best thing to do there? Roll out the homeless. Do you think the nuclear scientists are wearing tungsten vests or the homeless at Reactor 3? If you said homeless, you just won first prize. You got to pick it up right away. It's 10 buckets of horse shit, and you got to bring your own lids. Because this can get pretty ripe pretty quick, so email me after and I'll tell you where to go pick it up. Water cannon unable to spray reactors turns away because the radiation levels are too high. Well, they forgot to mention they were talking about the homeless and the destitute and the victims of society, the immigrants who don't speak the language. High radiation levels, the helicopters can't go there. So you really think that they're going to send in a nuclear scientist? Seniors are shot for the frontline radiation cleanup. You know, people that worked all their life and deserve not to be murdered like this, have their health destroyed like that. That low-life scumbag nuclear industry. How can you call it anything but a low-life scumbag industry? How does that work? Don't forget what this industry is. It's a genocide, omnicide machine. Temp workers fighting to repair crippled Fukushima plant. Like, you can't repair. Like, it's absurd when you see headlines like that. It's meant to make you complacent, right? Temp workers are working to restore power to that. Look. There's nothing left there. Japanese workers braved the radiation for a temporary job. Again, right, the word game, right, the grammar game is a very nasty game. These are not Japanese workers. These are the homeless, the destitute, the victims of society, immigrants who don't speak the language. And when you see pictures like this, right, most likely these are Photoshop. These are lethal doses. There's 4 melted fucking reactors right there, for God's sakes. There's 8 fuel pools melted down. You really think anybody's out there walking around? Give your head a shake. Helicopters can't go in there. You really think people are walking around these fucking places and surviving? If that's real people, they died that day. Let's put it that way. Top Tokyo doctor dealing with nuclear workers demand government step in at Fukushima plant for safety reason. Some of the nuclear scientists can't even read, Dana. My God, it's terrible. Turns out they're homeless and destitute and the victims of society because the nuclear industry is not going there. The homeless are taken to work in Fukushima. I didn't know there was a bunch of homeless nuclear scientists. Bless their hearts. Poor scientists. They're homeless and they're still going to Fukushima and working. Oh, I love them. They're wonderful people. Oh, actually, no, Dana, they're homeless. What? They're sending homeless people. I thought they were nuclear scientists. Yeah, nuclear scientists won't go within 100 kilometers of it. The mentally disabled are working at Fukushima, and they're treated like dirt. They're given second-hand paper suits on top of that. Like, this industry is despicable. No matter how you fucking look at the nuclear industry, they're not heroes. They're not Spider-Man. They're not the Hulk. They're not Superman. They're fucking scumbags. They're scumbags on a whole different level most people can't comprehend. They're real scumbags. Even Forbes, which is 100% scumbags in when it comes to pro-nuclear, Forbes pro-nuclear as you can get, even they said it was outrageous. The homeless are being sold to companies and put to work at the nuclear meltdowns. Just complete fucking disconnect, right? Cynical disregard for human life, risking a bleak future for this radiation-contaminated nation. A cynical disregard for human life, the 8 million species, and the rest of humanity and the ecosystem, the biosphere. That's how you would sum up the nuclear industry. A cynical disregard. They actually hate us. They revel in polluting your food and your water. And they have officially now polluted all your water on the entire planet. And who's the heroes of Fukushima? It's the mentally handicapped. And they're often given worse radiation suits than the regular employees. Like TEPCO had put out a story where they burnt 7,000 paper suits a day. 7,000 paper suits a day. So even if it was true, which is not, because there's no way there's 7,000 people on these sites every fucking day. Even if that was true, though, the fact that they would burn the radioactive suits when you can't destroy radiation by incineration or by chemicals or anything else shows a complete disconnect of priorities, right? The whole nuclear industry, everybody in it, should be punched out and dragged down to Fukushima and thrown in there. And if they try to get away, they should be shot on the way back out. Fuck every one of them on this planet. And fucking take their kids down there too and throw them in the fucking reactor core. Make them work there till they drop dead. Let's get some use out of these scumbags. And make no mistake, these are fucking scumbags. These are the lowest form of life humans ever created, is the pro-nuclear scumbag. These are degenerate monsters. There's no other way to describe them. They're worthless. They're worthless to humanity. They're worthless to society. They're a threat to humanity. They're a threat to the 8 million species. And they've gone too far now. They're the lowest forms of life conceivable. And they should be dealt with swiftly and appropriately. With no fucking mercy either. You know, in Beijing, they were showing 26 million atoms per cubic meter of air. From 393 to 26 million atoms per cubic meter of air. In Canada, it was 220 million atoms per liter of rainfall. This is a Xenon-133. It was 450,000 atoms, there was around 15 million atoms of Xenon-133 in a cubic meter of air in Washington, for instance, in a study. But we know that was symmetrical throughout the Northern Hemisphere. It wasn't just China, Beijing. See, they didn't pick up 30 million one-ton bags because they were bored. That was only 3% of the land that they picked it up on. So when you see rockfish of 15,000 atoms per kilogram, you're only talking about cesium. Why aren't you talking about all the other isotopes? And there's a lot more isotopes that if you look for them, you're going to find them, every one of them. At what point are we going to fight back? What point is this planet going to fight back? And who's going to start it? Who's going to educate the population? Who's going to stand tall? Who's going to get up there in the front? Who's going to take the beating? Who's going to take the abuse? Who's going to take the constant attacks? Who has that into them? I don't know. But let's go find somebody that's willing to take that, and let's fucking support them. Because we are running out of time. And this industry likes to infiltrate my comment section and my site. We've seen it many, many, many fucking times, hundreds of times over the last decade for sure, right? Because they got no other way of attacking me. They can't attack me. They can't call into the fucking show. They can't call into the show and argue out and say, no, Dana, it's like a banana and a potato chip and walking in fucking sunshine because they know I'm going to beat the shit out of them right on the spot. They can't do what they do to everybody else that don't know any better, see? It only works when you don't know any better. And they take revel in it. It's just, they revel in it. They actually enjoy it. They actually celebrate the ignorance of people and then use it to destroy their future and their loved ones and their children. And then they think, they call themselves fucking humans. They call themselves good parents. They call themselves good mothers and good fathers. I don't understand that disconnect. They think because they make a lot of money, therefore life, they're there to have the moral high ground. Because they really do. They act like that and they believe that. They're so complacent. They're useful industries, useful idiots for the nuclear genocide machine, the omnicide machine. That's all they are. They're just useful idiots. Because the industry can't work without a whole lot of these useful fucking idiots. Do you know how many people over the last decade have called me and said, no, Dana, it's like a banana and a potato chip and walking in the sunshine and climbing the mountain? None. Not one. Do you know how often I put my fucking number on my website here? Every show. At the beginning of every show, I put that number there. At the beginning of every show. And the only one calls me is Calm Down Charlie. And all Calm Down Charlie does is attack me. But thanks to Calm Down Charlie's relentless attacks over the last decade, we're now going to have 149,000 of these pictures at some point. Because that's my gold. Because we're missing 149,000 pictures like this. Oh, my Calm Down Charlie t-shirts now. I'm up to 280 sales. We're so close to the magic 300. I'm going to have an epic 300 t-shirt. It's going to be epic. I already got it worked out in my mind, and I got most of the stuff put together to do it. Vending machines selling Geiger counters. That's what we need right now. There's money right there, baby. If anybody starts up a company of vending machines selling Geiger counters, I'm buying shares right away, too. There's a fortune to be made right there. That's the future of humanity. It's vending machines that sell Geiger counters. So anyway, I was doing this picture today, right? This is one of the pictures I was doing today. And I don't like these pictures. I want a more realistic looking, but sometimes let's see what I get out of it, right? And so one of the prompts it gave me was, do you want to add a vending machine selling Geiger counters? And I blew up laughing. And I was laughing. I had to wait because I was laughing so hard. And then I clicked yes. So I got up and made a cup of tea. And I was laughing the whole time I was making a cup of tea. When I came back, here was the pictures. I blew up laughing of how appropriate it was that the artificial intelligence asked me, did I want a vending machine in Japan? Because I wanted a vending machine that sells little girl panties, because Japan used to have vending machines that sold used little girl panties, little children, schoolgirl panties. Try wrapping your mind around that statement. And they were public, they were everywhere. That tells you everything you need to know about that society, don't it? And it's true, 100% true. I'm not making it up. That's the one thing I don't do around here is make shit up, because you can't make this up. Like, there's no one going to dream that one up, first off, right on their own. It's just never going to happen. The lowest fish found in the harbor was 770 becquerels a kilogram of cesium. But what about the uranium and plutonium and americium and the neptunium, the strontium, the curium, the americium, the xenon, the krypton? What about all the other isotopes and their daughters? You really think they're not going to be in the same samples? And you think they're not going to be in your children? And you think just allowing this to continue on like it is with no checks and balances is going to resolve it? You're going to end up with a fucking future, that your children are actually going to have a fucking future? Or your grandchildren? Or your loved ones? Or your elderlies and your grandparents and your parents are going to get away from this? You really fucking think that's going to happen? It's only going to happen when everybody raises their voice, or when somebody has enough prominence to get out and tell the story and the world takes a second fucking look. And I don't know who we should support to do this, but we better find somebody to do it. Because obviously I'm not going to get the support. The industry got me hit away. But who the fuck is going to beat me on this story, though, really? Who's going to be better than me at this story? Who's going to tell it like it is better than I am, I wonder? Because I want to meet him. I want to shake his fucking hand. Who's got the courage to get out there and go toe-to-toe in the nuclear industry besides me, I wonder? I want to meet that fucking person. Chiba, which is right by Tokyo, clears rice for shipment. So wait a second. This is 20 kilometers from Tokyo. Basically, it extends all the way to Tokyo, metropolitan Tokyo, right? Where there's 36 million people. It's so radioactive, they had to artificially clear the rice for shipment. Rice testing in Chiba showed 2 locations out of 319 that showed 46 to 47 becquerels a kilogram of cesium, of course, in the rice tested. All rice from the area has been released because it fell under the 500 atoms per kilogram limit set by the government. So pre-Fukushima was 0.1 becquerel a kilogram. As soon as Fukushima happened, they raised it to 500 becquerels an atom, which is atoms, pulsing energy every second. So when you see a becquerel, think of an atom, a physical atom, that pulsing energy at the speed of light. So 500 of them in your body, where they're spread out through your body, sequestering your muscles, your organs, and your bones. And your body attacks every one of them for the rest of your life with white blood cells, because they're pulsing energy at the speed of light. Your body has to repair the damage from every one of them. Imagine if you eat that every fucking day. You bioaccumulate it in your body. Like, they picked up 30 million one-ton bags. 150,000 sites like this. 150,000 sites like that. Like, when are we going to stop playing fucking games and get after these fuckers? All rice from the area has been released because it fell under 500 atoms. They dropped it down in 2012 to 100 atoms per kilogram, which is still a ludicrous amount. Because 11 atoms per kilogram, you start to see heart problems in children. At 50 atoms a kilogram, you're going to see permanent holes in the children's hearts and permanent lesions in the adults. So imagine what's going to happen to the mammals and animals and birds that are much more vulnerable at these doses. And this is full body X-rays we're also talking about, but they're only acknowledging cesium because that's what evil does, and that's what stupid does too, by the way. And the complacent does. They're not complacent. They're well-disciplined idiots that supports the industry, right? The illustration shows the location of 2 samples, which is right by Tokyo. Well, and they're spread out very far from each other. And so, the idea of the story is to say that it's safe, but when in reality, it can't be safe. It was 400,000 atoms of xenon-133 in Chiba. But it wasn't just xenon. If you got 400,000 atoms of xenon per square meter, then you're going to have similar numbers of curium, uranium, plutonium, americium, neptunium, strontium, and everything else. Because you can find the xenon-133, or you can find the cesium-134, 137, or you can find the krypton-133. That doesn't mean that it stops there, my goodness. Let's pick up 30 million one-ton bags and call it a day. Everybody starts looking. Now let's cut them open. What they done now is they moved 14 million of the one-ton bags to Osaka, which is within sight. Futaba, which is within sight of the nuclear meltdowns. And they cut the bags open. They're growing food in it for sale. Because just being insane wasn't enough. And we should all think Calm Down Charlie. It wasn't Calm Down Charlie, wouldn't have all these great fucking pictures. It wasn't for the Tokyo Bureau of Chicago Division, Yoshida Machado, we wouldn't have all these pictures, would we? I'm going to send him a Christmas card this year of these pictures. For comparison purposes, in the Fukushima radiation contour map, well, see, that's not a real contour map, you disgusting maggot, whoever wrote this story. Here's a contour map. Here's 20 days later, the contour map of the radioactive fallout. So, to suggest that this is Fukushima, but when in reality, the French government itself acknowledges, all the other governments acknowledge this is what it looks like at around 30 days in. So to suggest that it only looks like that is so dishonest. You can do this. If you took a road and you went right around the entire planet, this is what it would look like if you picked up 6% of the land just in the Fukushima prefecture of one-ton bags. High levels of radioactive waste being allowed in landfills in Japan. Try wrapping your mind around this story, folks. The environment minister, the opposite of environment, Hosono, has raised the limit of radioactive waste allowed in landfills from 800 atoms per kilogram to 100,000 atoms per kilogram, for fuck's sakes. So 30 million one-ton bags is not even close to the actual numbers, is it? Because they're putting 100,000 atoms per kilogram, but that's what the minimum number was for the one-ton bags, was 100,000 atoms per kilogram. That was the minimum number. Just give me a second here. So that's reactor 3 blown up to your right, but to your left is another model of radioactive fallout and it's based on 26 days. It's based on 20 days after the last reactor blew up. It's 26 days after the last reactor blew up. Right, there's right and wrong, and what they're doing is so wrong that we need to write it. So when it comes to the tanks, like I'm showing you lots of pictures of the bags because there's so many pictures missing, we had to make up pictures to compensate for it. Remember, the official story is nothing got out of these reactors. The official story is whatever got out was equal to 3 grams of sugar. And that the official story of the tanks today is quite different than the official story of the tanks from 2013. I'm going to play that again because I don't think everybody understands the importance of this.
The Fukushima plant sits smack in the middle of an underground aquifer. Deep beneath the ground, the site is rapidly being overwhelmed by water. Beneath the surface, water flows downhill and into the basement of the damaged reactor buildings. There it is contaminated with high levels of radiation. To stop the groundwater flowing on into the nearby ocean, engineers are building an underground barrier. But that is causing the groundwater level to rapidly rise. It's now so high the water will soon reach the surface. Then it will start flowing overground into the sea. This week, the company that owns Fukushima, TEPCO, made this disturbing admission.
We understand that this water discharge is beyond our control, and we do not think the current situation is good.
Outside experts say it's now clear TEPCO is incapable of handling the cleanup at Fukushima. It's time for the Japanese government to step in. The situation is already beyond what TEPCO can handle, he says. If it were possible to take proper measures, they would have done it already. It's not as if TEPCO is refusing to do what they can. They're doing everything they can, but there are no perfect solutions. Even if the government does step in, it's not clear what it can do. The only other solution is to pump out the contaminated groundwater and put it in storage tanks. But after just 2 years, the site is already jammed with more than 1,000 giant tanks. Most of them are already full up. At least 400 tons of new water pours into the site every day, and it's going to continue for years and years. Fukushima's water crisis has only just begun. Rupert Wingfield-Hayes, BBC News in Tokyo.
So the tanks are actually empty. There is nothing in the tanks. Because if you suck the water up that was poured over those reactors and put them in tanks, then you can't get back on the site. Oh, so, well, good. Whole country radiated. Let's pretend it's not happening. Let's not come up with no solutions. Let's just pretend it's not happening. High levels of radioactive waste being allowed in the landfills. Meanwhile, radioactive sludge is piling up at local sewage plants as no clear plan has been developed to deal with the sludge. Radioactive sludge is also in 1-ton bags. And we know just at one point there was 50, just right after the accident, there was 50,000 1-ton bags, not of radioactive sludge, from sewage, which, as far as I know, there's millions of them, 1-ton bags. But there was 50,000 1-ton bags in the first year, I can't remember exactly where, of sediment from the filters from the water reclamation facilities in the big cities. So the big cities are going to filter the water, and then the sediment from the filter is normally used for fertilizer. Instead, it's so radioactive they can't get rid of it, which means all the water pipes are radioactive, and all the water they're drinking is radioactive, and which helps contribute to the radioactive sewage. But when the sewage numbers Like, you don't want me to dig up those headlines? Because that'll blow your mind. Like 350,000 atoms per kilogram in sewage. These are absurd numbers we're talking about. And this industry is destroying everything and everybody. And you need to gut up. It's time to gut up. It's time for the world to make a stand. And I don't understand. I do understand, I guess. But it's hard to comprehend that no foundations have supported me. And they might not like my rhetoric. What do you want me to do? Say fucking please and thank you? Like, if you want someone to go to war, they're not going to be saying please and fucking thank you, okay? They're going to stand fucking tall before the man and they're going to hammer back, right? And it's never going to be pretty. When you're fighting back, it's never going to be fucking pretty. You know, I just wish the world would support me so I can go to fucking war. Because I'll go to war. You've got no idea. The world doesn't have a fucking clue what I'm going to do if I can get the chance to go back to war against this industry. You really don't get it yet. If some foundation would step up, if the world, everybody should be doing is sending me out to the foundations, saying, why ain't you supporting this guy? Why are you wasting your time on anything else when this is the most important subject in human history? Because I guarantee you, I would be out there fucking researching on the ocean all day, every day, all winter, all year long if I could. I'll be in the woods, out in the ocean. I'd have people out there fucking doing it too if I had the support. I don't have the support. I can't even keep the whole operation going. And so what we done over the last year was we bought all of our maintenance equipment, everything, so we can do maintenance. So there's literally no project that I can't challenge, that I might have to do that I can't complete. I have the equipment. I still need to buy odds and ends, but I have the foundation now to repair everything myself. And I'm the last one that should be doing that kind of work. You know, I had 3 heart attacks last year, for fuck's sakes. Right, the year before I had a kidney stone that almost killed me. But I had 3 heart attacks last year, and a special team flew in. We don't know who they are, where they came from. Nobody was allowed to operate on me. A special team showed up, and the record down here for stints in a human, in their heart valves, was 5. They gave me 7. Which means I got the record down here for stints for your heart valve. They opened it right up. So we got to get this boy back in the game. But if the world would only support me, and you know I was out there and I'd done research expeditions for 6 years because I had the support, right? I was gone for 4 to 5 months a year because I had the support. Not always, but I had the equipment, and there was enough coming in to keep it running. Sometimes I had the extra, and I always bought the extra equipment. I've always done that. And I have a big fleet, and I'm dedicated to the job. There's nothing more important. And I don't do nothing else when I work on nuclear. And it's been like that for 22 fucking years. But now, Fukushima, post-Fukushima, the urgency now can't be denied anymore. And so we spent 6 years doing marine research expeditions, and what we show in our documentation is an extinction level event. Fukushima is an extinction event. And now we need to extinct the nuclear industry. It needs to pay a hefty price for what it's got done to us, and for the crimes it perpetrated against us by growing food in a nuclear wasteland. All the sewage is radioactive. All the water reclamation facilities is radioactive. All the incinerator ash is radioactive. The whole country is radioactive. And they're shipping food worldwide and poisoning everybody that way also. Where do we draw a line? Like, what does it take for this world to make a stand? Because I really need to know. Fukushima highly radioactive water accidentally released from the reactor basements. Nobody, and when I say nobody, I mean nobody's going into these reactor basements. Like, here's a reactor basement. This is Medusa, reactor 3. Does it think anybody's in the fucking basement there? Ever? In 100 years or 1,000 years, nobody's going to go into the basement. You picked up 30 million one-ton bags, 150,000 sites. We only got 1,000 pictures of those sites. So we got to make up 149,000 pictures like this to compensate for the pictures that are missing. TEPCO has admitted that highly radioactive water from the reactor building's basement was pumped out of the building into the basement of other buildings. Like, it doesn't work that way. Like, you can't step over those lines now, they're lethal doses. And when you remove the equipment, you can't step over that spot where the equipment was because that's going to be so radioactive. And there's zero possibility to pump it out of one basement to another basement. It's zero possibilities. In order to do the work, the homeless have had to manually operate the pumps. You can't get near the pumps again. The second you turn it on, you have to run like fucking crazy to get away because of the radiation you're talking about pumping through. The pumps are used to reverse water into the reactor buildings or send it to the other destinations. It's simply not true. It's a complete fabrication. They were pumping it, they said, into the tanks, but they can't do that either because now you can't get near the fucking tanks. Like, how many 1-ton bags is too many? 30 million? Which is 3% of the land. You think nuclear scientists, nuclear academics, nuclear employees were actually picking up the fucking bags? In paper suits? Tens of millions of atoms per liter of cesium. It's 100 million atoms per kilogram in these bags, 1-ton bags. These millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of 1-ton bags that they picked up in order to manipulate you and trick you and coerce you and deceive you. Letco wants to know if there's any evidence from the industry of this or any evidence from the industry of that or any documentation from the industry of this or any of that. They're not going to tell you fuck all. But when you go back to the original days, and I got that here for you, then you find some of the information. But we still haven't seen any pictures of Shika plant or Shika community. We haven't even seen pictures of Shika community. And Shika nuclear power plant, he said it was an upper 5 on Japan's Shindu scale of 7 in the basement of the reactor 1. Not reactor 2, which by the way is right alongside of it, but in the reactor 1 building. We got no evidence, but we got endless evidence that it happened. Because the laws of physics dictate that a massive earthquake in the basement of a building is going to destroy the building, right? Or destroy its ability to contain. This water would obviously have types of radioactive contamination in addition to the cesium contamination. So how often do you actually hear him say that? How rare is that statement right there? You can't just have cesium, but yet almost all the academic studies that I'm going to do on Thursday of Chernobyl anniversary are going to mention cesium. Yeah, we're going to have plutonium and stuff like that in some of the studies. But 90% of them are only going to talk about cesium because you can't get funding for the other isotopes. Japan's nuclear non-regulatory agencies have ordered TEPCO, which is not a decommission authority, shouldn't exist in the capacity of this, and many government agencies, including the Fukushima prefectural government, wanted TEPCO gone to monitor to make sure the water doesn't leak out of the building. So you're going to leave the monster in charge. You picked up 30 million 1-ton bags, but nothing got out of the buildings. And you're going to put them in charge. They should be held accountable, shouldn't they? And this is the craziest headline imaginable. Fukushima car washes struggle with radioactive sludge. The numbers are nuts. It's like 57,000 atoms per kilogram in the sludge at the car wash. I wonder why. The whole country should look like that if you were honest, right? 57,000 atoms per kilogram. Sludge tanks at the car wash facility in the regions have sludge building up in their septic systems since 2011. This is 2016. Some of it reached almost 60,000 atoms per kilogram of cesium. Well, it would have been double that and triple. It would have been 100 times that in strontium-90. But that's an insane story. And every street in Japan should look like this. Every street in North America and Canada should look like that. As pointed out in the Japan Times, the degenerate Japan Times, I mean, the high radioactivity in sludge makes the removal a high-risk operation. So you got to bring in nuclear experts to clean up the sludge at your car wash. Because I'm laughing, because otherwise when I open my mouth I'm going to scream, right? We call it the gallows laugh. If you want to see Europe, that's reliable. Is that what word? What do you mean by that? Hang on a second here. Anyone know of monitoring radiation in Europe that is reliable? Oh, well, as it so happens, let me introduce you to something that's reliable. You tell me if it's reliable or not in the comment section. What do you call reliable, I wonder? Anything up by Dana? Hang on there. I'll show you something reliable, hopefully. You'll all agree with me. Let's see what Europe looks like after Chernobyl, for instance. Hang on. I got you something. Chernobyl. Europe. You want Europe, eh? Oh, let's do the other one. Chernobyl. Almost there. Okay, here's a straightforward one. Here's a bunch of studies out of Chernobyl. This will get you started. Let go. This is for let go. So the influence of post-Chernobyl fallout on birth defects, abortion rates in Australia. You see all the people doing the study? They're not doing it because they're bored. They're doing it because there's a real reason. Trends in human sex odds at birth in Europe and after Chernobyl. So they're studying male and female sexual or births because more males than females quantifies everybody got poisoned by radiation, which also decreases the population. And if it's in humans, then you're going to see it in animals, birds, and insects too, which means you're going to see a loss of all species, not just humans. Prenatal loss of 400 male fetuses in the Czech Republic. Secondary sex ratio and trends in associated gender-specific births near nuclear facilities in France and Germany. So just living within 100 miles of these facilities, you're being irradiated constantly anyway, because the fuel pools are hemorrhaging radiation to the ecosystem. Non-thyroid cancer in northern Ukraine. So it's not just cancer. There's heart problems, liver problems, congenital malformations. There's Alzheimer's, dementia, autism, diabetes, Down syndrome. In fact, the first studies that they're going to do after nuclear accidents, and did in Europe, were on autism and Down syndrome. The congenital abnormality registry in Belarus. Fallout from Chernobyl accident, overall cancer in Finland. Down syndrome time clustering in Belarus. We've seen similar studies in Scotland, by the way, after Chernobyl. In fact, after Chernobyl, it closed 9,400 farms in Ireland, Scotland, in Europe. Wrapping your mind around that statement. They closed 9,400 farms in Ireland, Scotland, United Kingdom after Chernobyl for decades. Non-thyroid cancers in Belarus. Residents exposed to Chernobyl fallout in childhood and adolescence. Chernobyl fallout in perinatal mortalities in England and Wales. Chernobyl. Chromosome aberrations, Norwegian reindeer following Chernobyl accident. 256 assessment of the influence of Chernobyl and birth defects, abortion rates in Austria. Yeah, because nuclear is such a fucking fun thing, see? There's no lack of evidence. There's, like, I got like 60,000 fucking of these studies. I lost track after 60,000. That was, I think, 2017 or 2018, I had 60,000 studies. I haven't slowed down since either, so I must have at least 100,000. Estimated lifetime effective doses to hunters and their families in 3 most contaminated countries in Sweden. Now, all of these studies are meant to downplay it, but they all quantify, because you wouldn't do all these studies because they're bored. They're doing all these studies so they can downplay it. But when you bring them all together and you compile them like I got it right here now, all of a sudden, like, they're trying to downplay everything. They're trying to downplay every facet of life in Europe. And Geraldine Thomas, I look for the day when we have Nuremberg trials and we hang that fucking cunt. Incidents of illegal abortion in Sweden after Chernobyl. What do you think they're doing that? Because it's like a banana and a potato chip? Ionizing radiation, human gender proportions at birth. What do you think they're doing studies like that? Legally induced abortions in Denmark after Chernobyl. Pregnant outcome in Finland after Chernobyl. And if you look at Belarus and Ukraine and the orphanages of the abandoned children, you'll understand why they're doing all of this. And I can show you pictures, but trust me, you don't want to fucking see it. Delayed effects of accidental radiation exposure, 15 years of follow-up after Chernobyl. Pregnancy outcome in Norway after Chernobyl. Early infant mortality in Germany before and after Chernobyl. Trends in birth sex ratios in the vicinity of the research reactors. Even these gigawatts or low megawatts university reactors are contaminating those communities on a whole. Because when you're doing sex ratio around like Germany and in Germany, these are very low, but they don't have any containment because they're very low production reactors. And so they're hemorrhaging radiation into the ecosystem 24 hours a day. And so the only reason you're doing birth-sex ratio of more males than females is because you know that everybody got radiated. Otherwise, you're not going to get money to do it. You just want to know how bad it is. What's the discrepancy? And it's always going to be more males than females. Human sex ratio at birth in residential proximity nuclear facilities in France. You taking notes, dear? Let's go. Population exposures to iodine-131 released from Hanford. Preterm birth, infant mortalities, fetal deaths. In fact, they have a graveyard there with over 600 children in it with deformed heads alone outside of Hanford. Chernobyl cover-up. Yeah, they lost all the documents by year 6. Someone stole them, apparently. Radioactive fallout and neural tube defects. How many studies would you like? Because I can get them for you in a heartbeat. Global implications of Chernobyl, because it's not like a banana, see? The potential for disease initiation by inhaling beta-emitting nuclear particles. The potential! You're talking about heart problems, liver problems, lung problems, respiratory, pituitary, thyroid, adrenaline, Alzheimer's, dementia, autism, diabetes, Down syndrome, schizophrenia. And like when your thyroid, a children's thyroid or the animal or birds or insects' thyroids are saturated with radiation, then they're producing radioactive hormones. You got any idea how that's going to play out? Like, and there's nothing else on the planet that can hold a candle to this evil known as nuclear. There's really nothing on the planet that comes close to nuclear. I'm not finished yet there. Let's go. Would you like some of this? Infant mortality after Chernobyl. Why are you doing all these studies? Pregnancy outcome in Sweden after Chernobyl. Effects of the accident, Chernobyl, atomic energy on the outcome of pregnancy. Dental abnormalities in people living in radionuclide contaminated regions. And so people always make fun of a certain amount of the British where they have really deformed bad teeth. That's not because they're bad people or bad hygiene. That's because of radiation poisoning from Donneray and Sellafield. And all the other nuclear disease factories they got there. Abnormal eye pigment issues. There's a lot of studies about that. Leukemia incidences after, but there's heart problems and liver problems. They were trying to blame the leukemia clusters around Sellafields, formerly known as Windscale, in Seaside and Columbia in the United Kingdom, on a common cold. They actually done studies where they said it was caused by the common cold, not by nuclear, which is right next door to the little communities. And Chernobyl's in Ukraine. That's right, Dana. Hi, Dana. Effects of radiation on the reproductive system is an understatement. Prenatal radiation-induced brain and cognitive impairments. Human sex ratio at birth after atmospheric weapons testing. Think about that statement right there. Human sex ratio at birth after atmospheric weapons. So they're suggesting the entire planet was producing more males than females after the nuclear war. You call it weapons testing, but that was a nuclear war. It's the same bombs, the same radioactive fallout. And you would never use as many bombs. You know, like the Soviet Union bomb, the biggest one they had, was equal to 3,800 Nagasaki bombs, because that was a plutonium bomb, whereas the Hiroshima bomb was a uranium bomb, right? But the plutonium bomb was what they used with a hydrogen in the Soviet Union. And that was equal to 3,800 Nagasaki bombs going off at the one time. If I set off, if Russia and China fires 1,900 Nagasaki bombs at the one spot, is that a nuclear war? Will we call it a nuclear war or not? Well, yes. So when the Soviet Union set off a bomb equal to 3,050 megatons, 3,800 Nagasaki bombs at the one time, that's a nuclear fucking war on biblical proportions. And the effects from it are felt worldwide. When are we going to stop living in denial and get after these fuckers anyway? Down syndrome in Scotland after Chernobyl. Schizophrenia after Chernobyl. Why are you doing studies and all of that? Well, because they expect it. And I can show you, and I have many times, 500 studies on Fukushima. They studied every facet of every species. It's really something. It's spectacular. And we're going to cover that on Thursday. We're going to do 500 or 600 of these studies on Thursday's show of Chernobyl and what happened to Europe. So let's go. Come on back on Thursday. I'll fucking fill your boots for you. Fukushima Kariwa struggles with radioactive sludge. And 2 weeks ago, let's go, I'd done a whole show on Chernobyl of those types of studies, but I didn't use those particular studies. So if you take those studies in my last show 2 weeks ago on Chernobyl, you're looking at around 300 studies. That'll get you started, hopefully. The sludge will be considered radioactive waste that requires proper handling and storage from the car wash. Yes, we're back to that story. Like, we got to create 149,000 pictures like this because they had 150,000 sites, and we only have 1,000 original pictures. Yeah, Chernobyl's in Ukraine, Dana. I'm fucking the dog again tonight, and I still haven't got all the stories done. I'm sorry, folks. That's what you get. I get lazy, and I don't cover everything I'm supposed to cover. I end up covering everything else because the story is so complicated, and you're worried that if you don't bring all the information to bear, somebody's not going to understand it. The issue has also been shown to be a larger problem as radioactive soil and debris bags dot the landscape of eastern Japan. They don't just dot the landscape, they dominate it. 150,000 sites, for goodness sakes, just in Fukushima, which is only 3% of the land we're talking about. Many are failing. Chiba mayor requests radioactive waste storage for night time. So Chiba, which is right alongside of Tokyo, 240 kilometers away. Much of the waste consists of contaminated soil, plant matter, and possibly dried sewage sludge or incinerator ash. And you're talking about tens of thousands of one-ton bags in Chiba, 240 kilometers away. Much of the contaminated soil was stored in empty lots, and some of these near homes or schools, and others in watershed areas. Storing nuclear waste in watershed areas. Yeah, you're not asking for a fucking disaster or nothing. Thank you, Colette. Every fucking town in Japan, in Canada, United States should look like this. We should pick up all the topsoil because it's just a Fukushima. Parts of Chiba receive unexpected levels of contamination. Well, they're unexpected if you're dishonest. They're not unexpected if you're honest. Let me show you that French model again one more friggin' time. I'm going to move you ahead. This is 20 days in. So you should pick up 1 ton bags on the entire planet. All the topsoil of the entire planet should be scraped up and put into trillions of 1 ton bags. Water storage tanks at Fukushima Daiichi at risk of explosion. Of course, this story is actually a lie. What the idea was to cover up what they said they were doing, but they weren't doing, right? All farmland, every nuclear power plant should be surrounded with 1 ton bags because it's surrounded by farmland, right? And all fuel pools are hemorrhaging radiation into the ecosystem. And like if you're within 100 miles of a nuclear plant, you're being fucked up. The end result is that the highly radioactive sludge in the containers is generating hydrogen gas. Well, the hydrogen gas, you don't need a spark. You just need, once you displace all the air in the container and you introduce air back in, air will ignite hydrogen. The sludge in the containers can be as high as 3 sieverts per hour to 9 sieverts per hour for a single type of isotope. You can't just have a single isotope. 9 sieverts an hour. These are lethal doses. So these containers have to be 6 feet thick to shield you from that. This is a crazy story, even though it's meant to cover up what they're not doing. Every street in Japan, Canada, United States should look like that right there, look. 9.9 sieverts per hour, 3 sieverts to a human is a lethal dose. Just spread over a short period of time, like 20 minutes, you'll die that day. If you're there for 10 minutes, you'll die that week. If you're there for 5 minutes, you'll die that month. And 100% of you will. Even if you were the Hulk, you're going to die that day. Even if you're Spider-Man, you're going to die that fucking day. Because they were created by the nuclear industry to make you complacent and your loved ones complacent in increments over time. Container W6 was found to have concentrations high enough to cause an explosion if it encountered a spark or a flame. But if you displaced all the oxygen, right, then the anthropogenic man-made hydrogen, when you let oxygen in there, when it finally breaks down and air seeps in, it'll detonate. That's why they're not storing it, they're dumping it into the Pacific Ocean. Because otherwise you're going to lose the site. See? So they got to dump it into the ocean and kill the planet, otherwise you can't get back on the site. So we get a few more years if we do it this way than we will if we do it the other way. NRA confirms that this is a very real risk. The NRA should be taken out and bludgeoned. And every time they link you, and they'll link you like the article up there that's highlighted at the end of that sentence, every one of them when you go there, the site can't be reached. The story is gone. If the concentration level is high, a spark caused by static electricity can cause the containers to explode. Again, like the reason it's going to explode is because it displaced all the oxygen. Now when you introduce oxygen back in there, it'll cause it to explode or spark or static electricity or anything else like that. Also found some of these containers with elp sludge was missing the proper vent valve. Well, normally all the containers are vented constantly into the ecosystem so they don't detonate. NRA did not elaborate on the extent of the risk if a container or containers were to experience an explosion. I guess we're at that time, are we? If you made it this far, give yourself a pat on the back and give me a thumbs up. It was so hard to get along with. Just kidding, I don't give a fuck about the thumbs up. That was the valve or the compressor filter, oiler, and regulator I bought last week from money That was from the stuff James Lucid donated. Oh, I had the bike out there the other day. I'd take a picture to prove I was on the bike. I like the bike because I use the bike for looking for insects, right? It's cheap because the price of gas gone through the roof. And she's holding pressure. You got the same pressure. I checked it today. So super happy with that. What else have I got here? Oh, the battery charger, which is excellent. I love that thing. I got that for $19. Thank God. Because I got so many batteries. I got so much equipment, right? And you're always guessing, so there's no more guessing. And all it does is it's got an element. I'll get that in a second. So basically, it's got an element inside of that, and the element heats up, and that draws the power, and that does a drain on your battery. And then the gauge there, you have a chart so you can extrapolate what kind of condition the battery's actually in. So I'm super happy to actually have that. And I got a good deal on a 6-pound maul for quite a few years, because they're usually around $60-$70, right? I got it for $29, and the last time I was there, I decided to buy something else instead because I couldn't afford it, right? But that time, James donated the last bit of money there. I said I better grab it, and so I got it now. And you need it for all the equipment I got. I don't know how many times, because I got like a 1-pound mauls, like the hammers, 1.5, 2 pounds, and you can't bust anything to it, because I got so much equipment. I got 7 or 8 chores already I got to do with that when the weather finally breaks. We got shit weather for 3 weeks. It's unbelievable shitty weather for the last 3 weeks. It's unreal, the bad weathers. So I bought, that was a 10-inch bungee cord for $3. And that was I think that's the flap disc. No, that's a cutoff disc for the big one, I think. This is a flap disc, and because they're normally $15, $17, I won't buy them. But I got it for sale for $8. And the flap disc is because I got lots of grinding stuff now, because I got probably 8-10 days worth of grinding to do on my equipment. And then the flap disc will put the shine on it, and then you can spray paint it and protect it, right? So I'm really looking forward to getting that. I should have done it all last year, but last year I had a heart attack. And see up the top there, the 4-inch, that's a flap disc. They're really good, folks, those flap discs. They'll put a fucking shine on the metal after you get the rust off it like you won't believe. And this knot wire, this is a 5/8. That's a 4-inch knot wire. You can probably see it in this picture, maybe. Yeah, that's going to be some good. I got that for $9, I think it was. And I got a whole kit too, right? Which matches up with that one right there for $16. And it's an amazing kit. And I got to do boat trailers and a truck with that stuff. And get some paint on it to protect it so it can last for another few years. And then I got these on sale. The pickup tool, right, the long extension that you can wiggle in all directions, that was the one I really wanted. And then you got a plate there to collect your bolts and nuts so they don't disappear. And then you got an extending mirror, but you got an extended 10-pound pickup magnet. So I got 2 ways of retrieving bolts from the bottom of the boat or the equipment now, so I'm super happy about that. Very grateful to get my hands on this equipment. That's not all of it, but... And that's the wrong one right there. Okay, so I just wanted to show... I meant to show those pictures on Thursday last week, but I got more pictures gathered up that I didn't show. Yeah, there it is, that one there. That's where we wanted to be for the end of the show, right? I'll come over and bear with me while I get set up here again. Well, then I got through half the show I had put together for tonight. I'm so ambitious, right? Every show. The last show we done, I got through half of that. And it irks me when I don't get through the whole show because now I got to try to find a place to go through it all. I don't buy it unless it's on sale, so I'm learning to look in all the right places. Because I recognized quite a long time ago that I got a huge list of more stuff that I need, but I'm only going to pick it up if it's on sale, right? Because I always get twice as much as the average person will get, or even 3 times as much, because I'll wait until it's on sale unless I absolutely need to get it. So the Atomic Hope is a movie. We never got to that story tonight. I will cover that tomorrow night. And we got the counter from the director of the Nuclear Scumbag Show, because that's what we used to call this, the Nuclear Scumbag Show. And the Atomic Hope, that's a nuclear scumbag movie. They got freaking Michael Schellenberg and Geraldine Thomas from the United Kingdom, a real monster, 2 monsters, in the documentary. And so the producers and the director, you can imagine what kind of fucking lowlife they actually are, to support real life monsters. Like Geraldine Thomas and Michael Schellenberg are real life monsters. They're not like maybe monsters. They're very wealthy monsters, but that don't mean they're not monsters. Does it? No, they're not preaching fusion. They're preaching fission. Should we ban food from Japan, considering 4 nuclear reactors and 8 fuel pools melted down and affected Earth? And I'm not going to stop until we get 50 votes on that. When we got 50 votes, that's when the show ends tonight. So if you never voted, you need to get your act together. Because I ain't going jack shit. I ain't going nowhere. I'm staying right fucking here till I got 50 votes on my poll. Let's go. Come on. Chop, chop. I gotta get a cup of tea. I gotta get a cup of tea. Wait, come on, hurry up. I gotta go pee too. Hurry up. Are we there yet? We have 48 votes. We're almost to our... We need 50 votes. Come on, 50 votes. Is it a crime to be voted 50 times? Am I a bad person for wanting 50 votes? I guess everybody's already voted. Nobody left to vote. We need 50 votes. Why am I waiting? Come on. Oh shit. What happened? Let me bring up the voters. The voters. Here's the voters. Voters number 9. We need 50 votes right up there. Can I have 50 votes, please? Because I'm not stopping until we got 50 votes. Music's a bit loud, is it? We're going to have to play it again. I haven't got 50 votes. Let's start the whole thing again. Hi, everybody. Thanks, James. Confusion. Colette would vote 10 times. Bless your heart. Richard's shopping in the dumpsters again. Well, that's pretty sad. We can't get another 2 votes on the poll. I want 50 votes on the poll. You're going to make me sit here and beg for it. It's 10 after 12. I don't think that's right. So if you're new here, you should vote something on my poll. Should we ban food from Japan considering 4 nuclear reactors, and 8 fuel pools melted down and infected Earth and all 8 million species? I guess I should have asked earlier, right? I should have pushed the vote. Well, 48 votes is pretty darn good on my site anyway. In fact, 33 likes is actually really good on my site. I'm censored so much, I'm lucky to have that much. I shouldn't complain, I suppose. Oh well, can't win them all. Better luck tomorrow night, I suppose. That's the way it goes around here. My, here we go. It's in default. Yoink. Dana and Asana voted twice. It's all good. You're welcome, Adam. Have a great night, everybody. See everybody tomorrow night. We're gonna pick back up here tomorrow night from where we left off tonight. There's gonna be more added onto it, but we're gonna pick up tomorrow night. See everybody tomorrow night. Take care, folks. That's low, Richard.